He didn't say anything particularly brilliant. He didn't compliment her appearance. He didn't attempt to impress her with wealth or status. He simply said two words and something inside her shifted. She leaned a little closer. Her defenses lowered. And by the time that conversation ended, she couldn't stop thinking about him. Just two words. That's all it took. And once you understand the psychology behind those words, you'll never view attraction the same way again. Today, we're taking a deep dive into female psychology. More specifically, why certain men, often older men, seem to attract women with almost no effort, while others work 10 times harder and still get nowhere. This isn't about manipulation. It isn't about tricks, hacks, or techniques. It's about understanding how the female mind is wired, what it naturally responds to at a deep subconscious level, and why two specific words can activate something incredibly powerful inside a woman's psyche. Stay with us until the end, because the second word is the one most men completely miss, and it may be one of the most important things you'll hear all year. Let me tell you about Marcus. Marcus is 52 years old. He's not wealthy. He drives an ordinary car. He doesn't have a six-pack. He has a few grey hairs, a handful of laugh lines around his eyes, and a calm way of carrying himself that somehow makes every room feel more relaxed when he enters it. One day, his younger colleague Daniel, 29, gym-built and working in finance, asked him, "Marcus, how do you do it?" Women seem drawn to you like gravity. "What's your secret?" Marcus smiled. He didn't launch into a long explanation. He didn't hand Daniel a list of dating rules. Instead, he leaned back, lifted his coffee cup, and said, "I stopped performing, and I started noticing." At the time, Daniel didn't really understand. But years later, after countless failed dates and relationships where he always seemed to say too much while feeling too little, he finally understood. Those two words Marcus lived by, noticing and, well, we'll get to the second one. Because before we name them, you need to understand why they work. And for that, we need to talk about the female brain. At its core, female psychology is wired around two things: safety and significance. Over thousands of years of evolution, women developed an incredibly refined social radar. They notice micro-expressions, subtle shifts in tone, pauses in conversation, and body language cues, often unconsciously, faster than conscious thought can process them. That's why a woman can leave a first date with a man who technically said all the right things and still feel like something wasn't right. And she can meet another man who said very little that was remarkable and yet feel deeply drawn toward him. The difference comes down to what psychologists call emotional congruence, the alignment between what someone says and who they genuinely are. Most men who struggle with attraction are performing. They're running scripts in their heads. They're trying to manage impressions. They're constantly monitoring how they're being perceived, and women can feel that performance. Their nervous system registers it as a subtle threat, not dangerous, just not entirely trustworthy. Older men, particularly those who have done meaningful inner work, often possess what researchers refer to as secure attachment energy. They don't need the interaction to unfold in a particular way. They're not auditioning, and that is incredibly attractive. Now, this brings us to the two words. The first word is interesting, not as a compliment, not as filler, but as a genuine response. Here's how most men react when a woman says something unexpected or unusual. They either immediately agree to avoid tension, or they quickly pivot the conversation back to themselves. Both reactions quietly communicate insecurity. But when a grounded, mature man hears something he didn't expect, he doesn't rush to fill the silence. He pauses, he looks at her, and he says, "That's interesting. Tell me more." Technically 3 words, but interesting is the anchor. And here's why it works psychologically. When you genuinely call something interesting, you're communicating 3 things simultaneously without ever saying them directly. First, I'm not threatened by your perspective. Second, I have my own frame, and I can hold yours alongside mine. Third, I'm actually present, curious, and engaged. Dr. Arthur Aaron's research on interpersonal closeness demonstrates that deep, sustained curiosity, the kind that makes another person feel truly seen, is one of the strongest bonding mechanisms between human beings. When a woman feels genuinely interesting to a man, not because he's flattering her, but because his eyes genuinely light up when she speaks, Dopamine is released. Oxytocin begins to build. She starts associating him with that feeling of being fully seen and valued. Consider the alternative. Most men, when faced with a woman's unique perspective, either rush to agree, "Oh, I totally get that," or rush to one-up. "That reminds me of this one time Both responses shut her down. Neither makes her feel seen. But the man who pauses, looks her in the eyes, and says, "That's interesting," creates a vacuum of curiosity that she naturally wants to fill. She leans in. She explains more. She reveals more of herself. And with each revelation, she becomes more emotionally invested in the interaction. This is the psychology of attraction. It's not about impressing her, it's about creating the space for her to impress you. And that simple shift changes everything. The second word is safe. Now, this is where most men completely miss the mark. When a woman feels safe with a man, it lowers her defenses. It allows her to be vulnerable. It allows her to relax into the connection rather than guard against it. Safety is not boring. Safety is the prerequisite for desire. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. And one of the greatest wastes is spending time with people who make us feel unsafe." A woman will never fully open up to a man who makes her feel judged, rushed, or evaluated. But when she feels genuinely safe, she opens like a flower in sunlight. She shares her thoughts, her fears, her dreams. She becomes emotionally intimate. And emotional intimacy is the gateway to physical intimacy. The word safe isn't something you say. It's something you communicate through your actions, your presence, your ability to hold space without judgment. When a woman feels safe with you, she doesn't need to perform. She doesn't need to impress. She can simply be herself. And that is when genuine attraction flourishes. Now, combine these two words, interesting and safe. When a woman feels both truly interesting and genuinely safe with you, something powerful happens. She begins to associate you with a feeling she rarely experiences in the modern world. The feeling of being seen without being judged. The feeling of being valued without being objectified. The feeling of being safe without being trapped. That combination is intoxicating, and it's why some men seem to attract women effortlessly while others struggle desperately. The men who attract women effortlessly are the ones who have learned to create that space of safety and curiosity. They don't chase. They don't perform. They simply are, and women are drawn to that like moths to a flame. Think about the men you know who are successful with women. Are they the ones who try the hardest? Or are they the ones who seem the most relaxed, the most present, the most genuinely interested in who she is? It's almost always the latter. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This applies to attraction as well. It's not about what you say, it's about how you make her feel. And the two words interesting and safe are tools to create that feeling. They are the foundation upon which genuine attraction is built. But there's a deeper layer to this. When you embody these two words, you're not just attracting women. You're becoming a better man. You're becoming more present, more grounded, more capable of genuine connection. And that transformation is what makes you truly irresistible. Not because you're performing, but because you're becoming. The process of learning to be interesting and safe isn't about learning tricks. It's about doing the inner work to become the kind of man who naturally embodies those qualities. It's about cultivating a life of purpose, a sense of calm, a genuine curiosity about others. And when you do that, the attraction follows naturally. Now, let's bring this back to the conversation between Marcus and Daniel. Daniel wanted a quick fix. He wanted a list of rules. But Marcus knew that true attraction isn't about rules. It's about presence. It's about being the kind of man who doesn't need to impress because he's already comfortable in his own skin. It's about being the kind of man who can sit across from a woman and genuinely find her interesting without needing anything from her. That is magnetic. That is what women are drawn to. That is what creates genuine, lasting attraction. Think about your own life. How many times have you caught yourself performing on a date? How many times have you been more focused on what you're going to say next than on what she's actually saying? How many times have you been more concerned with impressing her than with genuinely connecting with her? If you're honest, the answer is probably more times than you'd like to admit. And that's okay. We all do it. But now you know better. Now you know that the secret isn't in saying the right thing. It's in being the right kind of presence. It's in being genuinely interested, genuinely curious, genuinely safe. The Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This applies to attraction as well. You don't have control over whether she likes you. You don't have control over her feelings. But you do have control over your own presence, your own curiosity, your own ability to create safety. And when you focus on what you can control, you become infinitely more attractive. So, let me ask you, what would it take for you to become more genuinely curious about the women you meet? What would it take for you to become a safer presence for them? What would it take for you to stop performing and start noticing? These are not easy questions, but they are the questions that separate the men who struggle with attraction from the men who naturally attract. Marcus didn't have a secret formula. He had a way of being. He had cultivated a life of purpose, a sense of calm, and a genuine interest in others. And women were drawn to that like bees to honey. Now, I want to address something that might be uncomfortable. If you've been struggling with attraction, it's not because you're not good enough. It's because you've been trying too hard. You've been performing instead of being. You've been chasing instead of attracting. And that's exhausting for you and repelling for her. The solution isn't to try harder. It's to try different. It's to stop trying to impress and start being genuinely present. It's to stop chasing and start attracting. When you shift your focus from what you can get from her to what you can offer her, everything changes. You stop being needy. You stop being desperate. You start being grounded. And that groundedness is incredibly attractive. It's not about being aloof or playing games. It's about being so centered in yourself that you don't need her approval to feel okay. And that self-sufficiency is magnetic. Think about the Stoic concept of indifference to outcomes. The Stoics taught that we should focus on what we can control and accept what we cannot. When you apply this to dating, you stop being attached to whether she likes you. You're simply present. You're simply curious. You're simply safe. And if she doesn't respond, you don't take it personally. You move on with your life because your self-worth doesn't depend on her approval. That mindset is the ultimate attractor. It signals that you are complete, whole, and not in need of external validation. And there is nothing more attractive than a man who is complete in himself. Now, let's talk about the practical application of these two words. When you're on a date, practice being genuinely curious. Ask questions that go beyond surface level. When she says something unexpected, instead of agreeing or one-upping, pause and say, "That's interesting. Tell me more." Watch what happens. She'll lean in. She'll open up. She'll feel seen. And when she feels seen, she'll feel connected. And when she feels connected, she'll feel attraction. At the same time, practice being a safe presence. Don't judge. Don't rush. Don't pressure. Simply be there, grounded, calm, present. When she feels safe, she'll relax. And when she relaxes, the connection deepens. And when the connection deepens, the attraction grows naturally. This isn't manipulation. This is being a better man. This is cultivating the kind of presence that women naturally respond to. And it's something that anyone can learn. It just takes practice. It takes a willingness to step out of your comfort zone. It takes a commitment to doing the inner work. Marcus, the 52-year-old man who seemed to attract women effortlessly, didn't start out that way. He learned it. He cultivated it. He did the work. And you can too. It starts with understanding the psychology behind the two words. It starts with recognizing that the secret isn't in what you say. It's in how you make her feel. And when you master that, you unlock a power that goes far beyond dating. You unlock the ability to create genuine, lasting connections with people of all kinds. So, the next time you're in a conversation with a woman, remember the two words, interesting and safe. Be genuinely interested. Create a space of safety. And watch what happens. Because when you make her feel like the most interesting person in the room while she feels completely safe with you, you become unforgettable. And that is the true secret to attraction. The modern world is filled with distraction, noise, and performance. But the men who stand out are the ones who can cut through all of that and offer something rare, genuine presence, genuine curiosity, and genuine safety. That is what women are truly drawn to. That is what creates lasting attraction. And that is what you can cultivate starting today. Stop performing. Start noticing. Stop chasing. Start attracting. Stop trying to impress. Start being genuinely present. The two words interesting and safe are not just words. They are a philosophy. They are a way of being. And when you embody them, you become the kind of man that women can't stop thinking about. That's the power of these two words. That's the power of understanding female psychology. That's the power of Stoic wisdom applied to modern dating. If this resonated with you, if you've ever felt like you were trying too hard and getting nowhere, if you've ever wondered why some men seem to attract women without effort, then share this video with a friend who needs to hear it. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. Tell me, what would it take for you to stop performing and start noticing? I read every comment and I personally respond to as many as I can. This is a community of men committed to becoming better, more grounded, and more attractive versions of themselves. Before I wrap up, let me leave you with one final thought from Marcus Aurelius. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If you want to be attractive, start by thinking attractive thoughts. Start by cultivating a mindset of genuine curiosity and genuine safety. Start by becoming the man you would want to be with. Because when you do, you won't need to chase attraction. Attraction will naturally come to you. That's the Stoic way. That's the way of the man who understands the power of two simple words. Thank you for being here. Stay grounded, stay present, and I'll see you in the next video.